Morning guys. So another Sunday and also the work day. Meeting Camina at filling station right now. See you guys later. And who we got here?
Hello you guys, welcome back to Chit Chat with Monash. This is Camila and this is Salman in another episode of
Chit Chat Monash.
Yeah, and Theory Diary. Well, in today's episode we're gonna talk about Art Nouveau. We're gonna answer some very interesting questions related to if Art Nouveau was considered more female or in the masculine part. And we're gonna take you to a little trip around the city. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and wait, let's get the microphone.
We'll get the microphone. Bye! Hello you guys, so as you can see, we're taking to a little trip and now we are in Elizabeth Street in the center of Melbourne, where we're gonna talk about Art Nouveau and about like the influence it had about in the 19th century. So everything basically started with the Vienna session, and after that like a lot of movements are starting to emerge. One of those was Art Nouveau and the Jugendstil. I might be wrong, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm not German, but anyway. So Art Nouveau, it's very characterized because the use of organic shapes, florals. It's very like fluent in a way, if that makes sense, and that's something that we can see in architecture. This is a very good example of how the influence of Art Nouveau reflected not only in art design but also architecture, and how it was an international movement that it not only happened in Europe but it actually came across continents. So we're in Australia and that happened in Germany, and we have very important figures that were part of this movement. One of those was Peter Burns. He was mind-blowing when it comes to like art design, architecture, and we can see two phases of him. The first one was when he was very influenced by Art Nouveau, and we can see it in his artworks, again the use of dynamism, organic shapes, etc. And then the later Peter Burns, when he changed like every movement, he was like, you know what, I don't like this anymore, I need to change to more an abstract and more like simple, more minimalist kind of style. So I think a very good example is like this building. We can see the use of organic shapes around the windows, even the shape of the building. We can see the arch at the top, even the lettering, the typography that they're using, the Phantom building, the style, the flowers around it. It's a very good example of Art Nouveau and how it reflects, in this case, architecture. And if we go a little bit to the right, we see a complete different contrast. Art Nouveau went from, they were rejecting classical tradition, and they were like, you know what, we don't want the Greeks, we don't want, the classical buildings that were, all based in proportion. Yeah. And everything based on like math and the golden ratio and everything. And that's what Art Nouveau did. Like they rejected that. But here we have like this building which is, you can see that they're embracing in a way that classical tradition still, like these characteristics of very rectilinear, like, to be honest, it's quite boring if we compare it to that one. So definitely I would say this one is more interesting to look at than the one on the right. So yeah, it's very cool how to see like in the cities how everything started to evolve, and we can see contrast in styles like next to each other. So yeah, that's pretty cool. What else? We're gonna take a little pause here because I don't remember what else. And we'll just coming back a little bit and talking about Peter Burns. Well, as I said before, he was architect, designer, artist, everything. And he actually built his own house in, I think, 1907. I could be completely wrong of the date, but doesn't matter. And he actually, in 1907, I'm pretty sure that's the correct date, he was part of the IEG, I don't know how to pronounce it, something with electric, I don't know, no, never mind. And here we are again.
Sorry, just keep going.
Wait, I need to check this again because I don't remember. Yeah, so he created the workbound, and he was influenced by the arts and craft movement as well. And then in 1907, he was the artistic supervisor of the German company IEG. And, well, Peter Burns also was one of the most important founders of modernism and functionalism. As I said before, he had two stages. One that was more influenced by Art Nouveau and more organic shapes, etc. And then we have the later Peter Burns when he is more in the modern kind of era. That makes sense?
Late modern style of
Yeah.
architect.
And,
Trying to be simple and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Something like this. But instead of this
Kinda.
one, it got a lot of
But
decoration.
we could still reflect it, for example, in the kettle, in the metal kettle that we talk about. I remember how we were saying that it was funny because it actually took more time for it to heat up water than an actual put it in the stove. So they were, they were selling you the idea, they were making you loyal to the brand but not to the product, if that makes sense. Because actually he was not focusing on what the function of the object was going to be, because it actually doesn't make sense. But he was more focused on the idea behind it of being loyal to the brand, etc. So he's a genius. And then on the other hand, we have Adolf Loos, he was basically the contrary of Peter Burns, and he was against like any type of decorations. He was like, I don't like that. That's just put in more stuff to it. Let's try to stay in the abstract, more like the essence of the object is, or the building or whatever. So yeah, that was very interesting, just to have like that type of two different contrasts in the same area. And that's it. Bye. Yeah, so this is really weird. So we've been talking about
We're talking about which was that?
Yeah,
Industrial design order.
Yeah. So we were talking about Art Nouveau, and we were talking about the difference with German industrial design, basically the person is back. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, which style do you think it lets you like express more?
Feeling?
Maybe not feeling, but just in general, like which one do you think gives you more freedom of, in a way, expression?
Yeah.
Which one do you think it is? The German side of like more of an abstract?
The modern one or the traditional one?
Not traditional, the Art Nouveau one.
Mm-hmm. So for the Art Nouveau one, I think after I watched the video on Nouveau,
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a lot of passion that the worker put. I'm like the designer, and which also the worker put. I'm like they put a lot of passion on their work. I'm like starting from draft. I'm like they're trying to be so precise that they have like so hundreds of drafts for the product. And after this, like only one of the process. And then after that, they also do do use the hammer to like knock on the iron like one by one step. I'm like.
Yeah, on the kettle.
Yeah, on the kettle. It's like gonna take like them days or weeks to finish even like small pieces of work. So, and then later when you get to the German industrial design, everything is like so modernized. Everything is just like a very modern like a draft. You can just do it on the computer, or and then the draft just being delivered to the factory. Each of the workers just like handling one step of the progress. They just make the whole process with no soul, Of course, it's like making things like faster, but the old style way is got story to the product, which is good.
Cool.
All right, we're sitting on the grass right now, so let's talk about the question on Nouveau. Like, Oh yeah, I should take it.
Yeah, so it's gonna be quite complex. So yeah, the first question was
Which one is more complex and expensive?
Yeah. So we were talking about Art Nouveau, and we were talking about the German industrial design, and I mean, I would say Art Nouveau is more expensive because, as we were mentioning before, it's the use of organic shapes, rounded, more fluent, and I think like making those kind of shapes, since they're not,
It's gonna take a long time.
yeah, you know, so they're more natural.
More natural, and I'm like, even like you trying to, you know, copy the shape of the natural plant.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
hard. And for the German industrial designs, like as you can see from the building as well, I'm like so flat.
Yeah, exactly.
concrete.
And I think, like, you know, the influence of the Shakers that we were talking about, like during the lectures and stuff, how they were more based on a simplistic point of view when it comes to art design, architecture, and how they influence. So yeah, I think I would say definitely Art Nouveau is more expensive. I think that one of these styles, like Art Nouveau, comes like from the heart, if that makes sense, and like industrial comes from the mind. You know, like it's more like logical, it's more plain, it's more.
It's easier to.
Yeah.
It's also easier to build as well.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to building.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, because we're you know taking out like decorations and stuff like that, like all little flips was like against. So I would say yeah, like Art Nouveau is basically decorative. Just adds like more, like I don't know, like soul or like life to the building. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
I'm like, for Neuro, I was like that kind of like natural stuff, just putting like more, making the building more looks more natural. I mean, not natural. And it's like combining. I'm like, just when you're looking at the building, you actually can feel you're very comfortable.
Yeah.
And of course, like the modern, industrial designs where you like easier to build and save you a lot of time. But when people looking at them, I don't think they will feel like, all right, I want to live in this building.
Yeah, because it has like its own personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Well, then we were also asked which one is more.
The second question,
Yeah.
which one is more practical and hygienic?
Which one is more practical and hygienic? I think we basically just answered it with the other question by
with
saying
the
that
other question.
industrial design is more simplistic. In a way that could be called clean or hygienic, I would say, because it's, you know, all the ornaments are just out of it. It's just like from this abstract form, like the essence of it is what they're expressing. So yeah, I guess they, yeah.
And I'm like, in this very fast developing world, they're always like making them know like decorations are not that practical anymore, I think.
Yeah,
I'm like, when you're walking around the city, I'm like, we can show them some photos later. When you're walking around the city, I can tell a lot of building in Melbourne. I'm like in Central, it's like all modern industrial design. But when you're looking at church or some of the building from the 60s, 50s,
yeah,
you can actually tell a transition. I'm like from the neural and to the industrial design. So you can see the trend of the society actually, you know. Coming from like people prefer to build like industrial design building right now. So
yeah.
So the third question.
Yeah.
So which one makes you feel more freely creative? I think the answer for this question is quite obvious, very obvious.
Yeah, I would definitely stick with Art Nouveau for that one.
Yeah, because like for industrial design, you almost got a formula for that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like flat, you know, straight line, stuff like that. And for no.
And that's funny because even when now that I'm taking industrial, like we've realized that a lot of the products that are like the best ones are the ones that they're literally the simplest ones. Mm-hmm. Things that you're like, how nobody thought about this? It's just so simple in a way, like
as long as
dumb.
it works.
It just works.
Yeah, it just works.
Because it's, you know, it's focusing not on the aesthetic of the product or anything. It's focusing on the function of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the simpler, you know, the most beautiful. Yeah. If that makes sense. But yeah. Anyway.
Do you want to bring up some example?
No.
Alright. Okay, I think that'd be for today.
No, because we're missing the other question.
Oh.
And the last question,
Which one's more feminine and one more masculine?
I think
How to pronounce that?
masculine?
Masculine, yeah.
Masculine. Anyway, I think it depends on the point of view that we're looking at it. If we're looking at it,
it's quite personal.
I don't think it's personal though. I think it's more of the point of view if we were looking at from that time, or if we're looking at from a contemporary 2020 kind of point of view. Because like the way we think how society has been constructed, the rules and norms that we have, and the way we're thinking has been changing and evolving the past century.
Do you think it's also possible like why people have that kind of like this different kind of feeling for the different kind of style? It's like do you think it's possible like people usually think like women thinking way like more sensitive or emotional? Because like I'm like for the Nouveau, it's like you can get involved in a lot of emotion into the work, right?
Yeah.
Like you can use the natural plan to show your emotion, and I'm like letting people know what you're feeling right now. But I'm like for the industrial design, it's like all straight.
Yeah, but I think that's something that society has always like taught us when it comes to like women go more for the the feeling and more like the arts or whatever, and like men go for like the hard science, which is like math, physics, engineering, and like women are not allowed to do that. But if we analyze some of the Art Nouveau like posters of the time, most of them were made like from a male point of view, and they were usually nude or they were erotic, or we get seeing the whiplash in the design and everything. It's like more fluent and more organic and like feminine. So they literally put a gender on a poster, which it shouldn't be like that. It should be like it's a poster. It's not feminine or masculine. It's just a poster. But from that point of view, from that society at that time, that was considered feminine. But in nowadays, like if someone asked us and it's like, is this feminine or masculine, we'd probably say like neither. Like it's just.
So you're saying like people actually learn like trying to not divide it in that kind of field,
Yeah, and I think it should be like that. Like,
but do you worry like do you worry about like you were talking about like when you're doing industrial design right now?
Yeah.
So you were talking about like a lot of like product designs, like as long as it's work, it just doesn't matter with the appearance and stuff, right? Does it worry? Does it worry you?
Not really. I mean, not really. I feel like even nowadays we still seeing this kind of like division between, for example, like industrial design. We don't see a lot of female designers in that field. We see it probably more in communication design, which I'm not saying that there's something wrong with it, not at all. But we still have like statistically speaking, we see more female in the arts or the what we consider feminine. But yeah, like industrial design shouldn't be just for men, because it is not. Like industrial shouldn't put on a gender to it and be like, this is only for men and only men can do it. It's like, no, if you love it then you do it. So yeah, I feel like it's more of a social construct that a society has put on and be like, this is female, this is man. Like when like babies, this is pink for girls, blue for boys. It's like, no, it's just a stupid color. It doesn't have to have a gender to it. And that reflects in the arts all the time. Same with architecture. We mostly see male architects in it, but then women like Zaha Hadid just came and be like, look at me, I'm amazing, and I'm gonna blow out your mind and be like, wow. And she just revolutionized everything, and we look at her as an example of female empowerment, and like women, we can do anything as well, not only men, which was like careers or whatever that they were more focused on men, and it sucks. But yeah, so yeah, I think going back to the question is, from a nowadays point of view, it's not feminine or masculine. From that time point of view, it's birds. It's definitely more feminine. But I would be intrigued to see how female artists from that time would they depict like females like that in that like sensual erotic way, or would they do something completely different?
Yeah, things definitely getting better in this society. I'm like nowadays, but do you remember the bullying we need to deal with us on the class? Like, still got 50% of students on class still think like it's quite feminine, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It depends on the point of view that you were looking at. Because
Yeah.
I was not sure because I put on that one that it was more feminine, thinking that they were asking us from
Tram.
Yeah, thinking that they were asking us from that time. But I don't know if everyone else thought the same thing. What if they actually thought, yeah, it's more feminine just because they think it's feminine for somehow, and that would be very sad.
True.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you some extra questions about it. So like from your culture, like what is it normal, like, you know, if somebody's saying what kind of design, like what kind of style of design people think like, all right, this is feminine.
This is feminine.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. Like Mexico is very well known for like the like art and like architecture, design, influence, etc. And we're very influenced by European like style. So we have a lot of Art Nouveau, we have a lot of Art Deco in our buildings and stuff like that. But definitely most of them, they're male artists doing that. And we have, for example, Frida Kahlo, which is one of the most famous painters that people like know about from Mexico. And if you see her art, it's very tragic, but that's because she's basing it on her personal life. But then we have like Diego Rivera, which is like
What's that?
Diego Rivera, which is like
Sorry, I thought that was English, but
no.
Spanish,
which is no, it's his name. Which was Frida's husband, and he's an amazing painter as well. And I can honestly not really tell the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both amazing and they're like mind-blowing, and they were both very talented artists. One was a muralist, which was Diego, which he did like massive paintings. But yeah, I can, to be honest, at least for both of them, I cannot tell a difference. Yeah, like I could easily say this painting was painted by a man or by a female. I couldn't really tell the difference. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Okay.
But
So I think we both agree that, you know, sometimes this kind of question shouldn't be asked these days. I'm like you can't just like telling the different. I'm like just tell based on like the style of it.
yeah.
Telling it's like more feminine or, you know, masculine.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of paintings that they're like they have like delicate strokes, for example. Automatically people think like, oh yeah, that's female. And it's like, no, it could be it could be you, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting how the arts were related to. They definitely gonna show a gender or who made it just by looking at the painting. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much for today. Thank you for joining. See you in the next one. It was a fun one, complex topic that we kind of debate, I think, a lot. And yeah, bye.
And by the way, try to follow us and please leave down some comments. That would be great help, so we can just talk about it on class as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Just texting, testing the microphone to see if it works. Bye.